Hello and welcome back to another episode of Learn How to See Better. It's the only podcast out there that will improve your vision the longer you listen. And it's great to be with you here today, wherever you're listening in the world. It's a sunny little outdoor springtime session that I'm enjoying, wanting to share some good information and take advantage of this great weather. I'm in Arizona. It's a lovely day. April 2022, fresh air, lovely weather, and it's not 100 yet. It almost hit it this week, but not quite yet. So we got some good weather, and so I was taking advantage of this good weather. I've been thinking about the seasons and how quickly they change and what they mean, and how we as human beings have really had so much of our existence driven by the seasons, the changes in the seasons, the rising and setting of the sun, the winter, the summer, the spring, the fall. And it's just interesting to see kind of the cycles. The longer we live in life, the more we can recognize the patterns of the changing seasons and what they can mean for us, and how we can really almost like tap into our own superpower to make changes. And we can even look at the signs of the changing seasons to present signals of when we need to take action. No different than all it takes is a certain few winds changing, a few degrees, a drop of the temperature before the birds have enough of a signal that it's time to fly south for the winter, right? There's clues for the animal that hibernates that it's time to do those last few things before shutting it down for the season, not for the year, for the season. And similarly, we as human beings, right? If you live in a cold climate, you might stay indoors more. That's not necessarily the case. But springtime tends to bring out people from indoors to outdoors. We see the barren trees begin to bloom. We see the winter coats get put away and the t-shirts, and getting ready for sunshine and fun in the sun and changes in weather, and just the energy that comes with that naturally as we see life blossoming everywhere. I've got this tree in my backyard, my neighbor's backyard across the way from me, and it's interesting just watching it every year, looking eastbound towards the rising sun, just over the mountain backdrop. And what you find is all the way up to right at about March 15th, and no later than St. Patty's Day. For the winter, I don't even know what type of tree this is. It's big though. It's just sticks. Look like no life. Lost its leaves for the winter. That tree might be dead. They're not coming back. But somewhere every year, for years I've seen this, between the 15th, 16th, and 17th, right? The weather varies a little year to year, but like clockwork, set a clock by it. You see this initial sprout on all the branches, just this first little faint little green, almost peach fuzz. And over the next 2 weeks, literally by the end of the month, by the last day of the month, from the 17th to the 31st of March, worst case, all of a sudden this entire tree, all the branches have green all over them. You can't even see the barren sticks that you just saw 2 weeks ago, right? Crazy, that compound effect of the energy, that sunshine, that springtime feel, and what it can do for you. You hear the story about the bamboo trees, the bamboo shoots. You plant the seed and water it daily. Nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, is happening, as the story goes, for 4 straight years. You've got to tend to this project for 4 years. Talk about delayed gratification, right? But then apparently after 4 years, in quote unquote practically no time, or virtually overnight, these things shoot up to, I don't even know how tall they are, 4 feet tall, 40 feet tall, really tall. Do a fact check on that, but the growth of a bamboo is just a very delayed process, but all that energy is compounding. So that's an extreme example, but just here in the seasons, right? I got a light breeze, there's not a cloud in the sky, there's sunshine, there's a little shade, you can stand in the sun and feel good, get that vitamin D. But you recognize that just a short couple of months earlier, you wouldn't want to stand outside, or maybe you would, but not without a light jacket, especially if a couple of clouds come in and the shade comes. And so what we can come to take from that is there's just this natural process by which things kind of come alive in the springtime. If it's good for plants, it's likely good for the people, right? You come outside, you get up a little bit earlier, get a little bit more sunshine. It feels nice. You're more compelled to get that springtime breeze and sun on your skin and take that walk around the block. Such positive things. And then just recognizing it and remembering it. The funny thing about it's living in Arizona, one of the hottest places in the nation, hottest places to live in the world, practically, really. Some of the hottest of the spots. And what's interesting about that is we still have seasons. It's joked that Arizona, you guys only have, 2 seasons, super hot and not super hot, whereas other places have the full gamut of seasons. But the interesting thing is we do have a spring. This present time is spring. We've got a fall. They're just very short based on the extreme temperatures. It's almost like you don't really get the same amount of time each season you maybe do on the calendar, but temperature-wise, your ranges, right? Come May, you're practically summer, until all through September. So you get May, June, July, August, September, right? Now you get some paradise weather on the back end of that, but the idea being, that's a long summer. 100-degree summers for 5 months is quite a bit of chunk of the year if you're not attuned to hot, dry weather. But what you can recognize is you can use the season. You can accelerate that, right? A lot of people want to not be outside. They don't want to be outside in Arizona in the middle of summer because it's 110, 115, maybe 120 degrees Fahrenheit on some of the hottest days. Dangerously hot, right? So you want to stay inside. So if you live in Arizona, you really have a window of optimal time to get the best weather we have to offer in the March and April time frame and in the October, November time frame where it's just, no better place as weather's just good, in my opinion. So using that time to get out, be active, do fun things, just enjoy so much of what the season brings, right? Especially in the spring right now when I'm talking about, you look outside, everything is fresh and alive and green and beautiful and blossoming. Makes you want to be a part of it. And so I've been able to make adjustments and fine tuning to my own setup. It's a lot easier to, let's say, get out of that winter hibernation mode and start getting up earlier in the spring. Why? Because the sun is naturally starting to rise a little bit earlier each day. So if you're going to set your alarm clock 30 minutes earlier, 15 minutes earlier, you keep doing that over a course of a week, 2 weeks, or a month, between March and April, between April and May, between May and June, you're going to notice a drastic difference, right? Because it's a little bit lighter each day. And now all of a sudden it's like the sun's chasing your alarm clock. And soon enough, if you keep that pace up, you might fade out on the back end, get a little tired a little earlier, but that's going to help support the rising of you. So you can go out and get the most of each day that you want to, that's on your agenda, the goals that you have set for yourself. So really it's about just kind of optimizing the way you do things and using the seasons as reasons to get into gear, right? For me, that's been one of the best things about acknowledging how good the weather is in Arizona in March and April, right? That's allowed me to get out of a, wintertime state where I recognize I'm just not quite as active. You just don't notice that you're logging quite as many steps in a day, right? You're spending more time inside. You're not getting as much vitamin D. The weather might be chillier or more gloomy or more rainy or what have you, and you're just not doing as much. But when you don't have that looming over you, what a great time to take advantage. And in Arizona, it's like, hey, don't get stuck in a screen. Don't get stuck in the winter routines of being inside in front of a screen or doing things away from weather that might be cooler or less favorable. But get out there now and make the most of it before it gets too hot, right? I even tell friends a lot of times, hey, I want to come out to Phoenix and pay you a visit. I said, yeah, all right. April or October, take your pick, right? If you're telling me this is the summer, don't come now. It's hot, too hot. You might not be built for this. Don't want any adverse reactions from heat exhaustion or doing too much in the summertime. But October, a perfect time to visit. April, a perfect time to visit. And taking advantage of these good weather seasons can be one of the great ways to, in general, in our lives, take that time to kind of recalibrate, for lack of a better term, and kind of get in touch or get into the right rhythm to get into the right season. Sometimes, we're out of sync with the seasons. There's the seasons of the calendar, the seasons of the year, weather-wise, temperature-wise, climate wise. And then there's the seasons of our life, right? You might be going through a winter time in your life, a difficult time, a difficult situation, some sort of struggle in the middle of summer, right? You might feel like you're in some of your darkest days when it's the longest days of the year, depending on what's happening in your world. And so even then, looking at some of the things that you can do is make sure that you're, sticking to the script and trying to stay disciplined and using the seasons to help you adjust, right? Good old-fashioned sunshine. It could be great to help lift the mood. If you're feeling down in the middle of the summer when the weather's good outside, try and use that good weather. Bring that in. Use that. It's natural. It just really helps. And so that's just some of the thought process I've got. Sometimes you talk to people that have maybe just been in that winter mode a little bit too long, and all of a sudden it's April. It's the end of April. It might be May. Who knows when you're listening to this? But the idea being that sometimes we might take a little bit longer to hit our stride than usual. And it might just be situational. It might just be this particular year. It might be something different. But the idea being, there are certain things that happen like clockwork every day, every month, every year, and we can use those to our advantage if we just pay attention and watch the signs. The seasons of change are, they're reasons to give you the opportunity to recalibrate. And so when you recognize that, you don't wear the same clothes in the summer that you do in the winter, or the winter in the summer. You have to make some changes. You might have to go dig some boxes off the shelf. You might have to do some other things, but knowing that there's an adjustment, recognize that so much of it is built into the setup of your setup, right? Every year these days are going to be getting longer at this time of year. So every year, if you're feeling a little bit of a lull from whatever reason, maybe it's things haven't been going your way this year. Maybe you're not achieving the goals that you set out to. Maybe your first quarter in business didn't really, meet expectations. Maybe you've got different things that you're evaluating that haven't been quite up to par. But it could also be that you're just now getting some momentum built. You're just now getting out of that funk. You're just now getting to that point where you can really start to hit your stride and open up. And so feeling that, sensing that, recognize it in my own daily actions and activities, the way I'm working out and exercising now versus a month or two ago, the way I'm physically active and combining that with cleaner eating now versus 3 months ago. They're just observations. They're just data points. It's just feedback we can use to say, okay, is that a part of the plan? If so, great. Pat yourself on the back, stick to the script, keep reaping the rewards of your discipline, your dedication. But if not, it's a great opportunity to evaluate that and say, hey, okay, well, what have I done to create this? How can we assess, adjust, right? And these are just some of the simple things that are ways to tie like our nature, the nature of the world, and the way the universe is set up, and optimize that setup and tie it into like whatever you have going on, and just using it to kind of reset and say, okay, whatever I'm facing in my life and my world and what's happening, you can use some of the changing of the seasons and recognizing what season you're in to say, hey, what are some of the things that I know about this season that can benefit me, right? If it's, it's like the sowing and reaping, right? If you're supposed to be sowing the seeds, you should be sowing the seeds. If you're supposed to be reaping, you should be reaping. But if you don't have anything to reap, got to look at what you sowed, and vice versa. So all of a sudden, it might be the winter where you're taking the time to slow things down, right? The days are shorter. It might be time for you to look inward to see what adjustments need to be made to basically assess results, right? To run the tapes. Where in the spring and the summer, it could be your time to just go out and shine and perform, right? And take that learning and take that building that you've been doing in the off season so you can show up and shine and do the things that you're made to do, right? So however your seasons play out, with your objectives and your goals and what's going on with Mother Nature, those can come together. And sometimes if you ever feel off, this can be one of those things to look at and kind of say, all right, well, feel a little bit down, maybe, hey, get outside, get a little bit more sunshine, take advantage of those components that I have at my fingertips, right? If I've got the great weather of the spring, use that to get off the couch if you've been sluggish, if you're trying to get your energy back, right? Use these things that you see in your life that are built in as leverage, as props, as things that are part of your set of assets that you can leverage to get you in a better mental space in your world. And so paying attention to the reason for the seasons and how you can leverage those is an important little kind of life hack. It's really something to kind of bring you back into balance a lot of times. And even just spending this time outside, taking the time to share thoughts I have on my mind with regards to the roles that the seasons can play in helping us to reset and recalibrate is it's good for me, and hopefully it's good for you too. And it's a proof positive. Just getting back into this zone and this cycle of sharing a positive message on a regular basis with any and all I know that can benefit from listening. So thank you for this time that you took. Hopefully hit a sweet spot, hit a nerve, gave you some value that you can take and impart into your life or share with a friend or loved one. Don't hesitate. Take action and recalibrate. Thank you for listening. Continue to learn how to see better. This is the only podcast that'll help you improve your vision the longer you listen. This is your host, Drew Davis. Thank you for listening.